people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hello, AARP land. My name is Chef Holly Rutherford, and I'm coming to you today from Morton, Illinois. Today, we are going to do our Thanksgiving Sides Showdown. We've got a couple of great recipes for you today. We've got a play on a very common side dish, and then we've got something new for you, something a little bit lighter to go with all of those other heavy Thanksgiving sides. Who doesn't love all of the mashed potatoes and the stuffing and everything? But sometimes you just need some vegetables. All right, the first recipe we're gonna start with, we are gonna make a stuffed mushroom casserole. It's something you can do ahead of time and just stick it in the oven, like right before you need it. And it's easier to serve instead of having to stuff all of these little mushrooms. It's all just gonna be together in one pan. So the first thing we are going to get started for this recipe is we are going to roast a red pepper. So I'm going to just get my burner going here, okay? And I'm just gonna stick that pepper right on top of there. I'm gonna let that do its thing. What we are trying to do here is we're trying to get all sides nice and charred. And then after it gets all nice and charred, we're gonna give it a peel so that we don't have all of those little charred crunchy bits in our dish, and we are gonna give it a chop. This will still leave behind a nice smoky roasted pepper flavor that is fantastic and very versatile. If you are not comfortable doing this, you can also buy roasted red peppers in a jar, which are a fantastic shortcut. I like to get the ones that are in like the little strips. They're packed in oil, so you can just drain them, chop them up a little bit, and then they're ready to go for this dish. But for today, I wanted to show you all how to roast your own red pepper. I have a gas cooktop here, but you can also do it on an electric cooktop. I've done it at home. My stove is electric, and I just do the same thing. I just turn the burner on and just set it right on top of there. You can also do this on the grill if you have a grill, or if you have an oven, you can just put it on a pan under the broiler for a couple of minutes and then turn it, give it a couple more minutes until it's all nice and charred, okay? The first thing we are going to start off with is our mushrooms. I've got about a pound of mushrooms here. I like baby portobellas, but if you just want to do the plain white button mushrooms, that's perfectly fine as well. I just always give these a quick little rinse under some cold water. As long as you are not submerging them and soaking them, they won't take on a whole lot of water. That's a common misconception, okay? Some people do still prefer to just like brush them off. You can also just use like a wet paper towel. I just give them a quick rinse with some cold water just to get the little bits of dirt off. Right now I'm just taking the stems out, It's just as simple as giving them a little wiggle and they pop right out. I've got about a pound of mushrooms here that are gonna go into this dish. And what I'm gonna do, the little guys I'll probably just leave whole, but some of the bigger ones I'll just like halve them, just so we have some more bite-sized type pieces. And then we are gonna give them a little bit of a cook-off just to get some of the excess liquid out of them. One of the things that you can run into with mushrooms is they release a lot of water when you cook them. And if you were to just put these in this dish raw, then all of that water would end up in your dish. So by cooking them a little bit beforehand and cooking that liquid off, we prevent this dish from becoming soupy and soggy. All right, let's take a look here. See, we're starting to get some nice color on that. It's not quite where we want them yet. We want this thing black, all the way black, okay? So we're gonna put them back on there and just leave them alone for the time being. So I've got a saute pan here that I'm gonna start getting my mushrooms in. And I'm just putting it over about medium heat. And then, like I said, I'm just gonna have the big ones, just so we have a little bit better sizes. The little guys I'll leave whole. All right, so got my pan hot. I'm just gonna put a little drizzle of olive oil in there, just a couple tablespoons worth. Give that a swirl. All right, in go the mushrooms. Man down. Trying to escape from me. I guess they don't want to become a delicious side dish. All right. While those are doing their thing, give them a little stir here. What is going to happen is as they cook, they will start to release their own juices. And then the step after that is those juices will evaporate. So that is the step we are looking for here, okay? Mushrooms do absorb oil or butter very quickly, but for this dish, that's totally fine. Like I said, we are mostly going for getting rid of that excess moisture. All right, Mr. Pepper, how are we looking? Oh, there we go. That's what we're looking for. So now we're gonna turn him to another side. Get another side, all nice and charred. And while we're waiting on that, we're gonna start cutting the rest of our stuff here. I have one large shallot. Shallots are in the allium family with things like onions and garlic. Shallots have a milder flavor than onions. They're really great for like raw dishes or where you just want like a little bit of that oniony taste, but not something overpowering. But you prepare it a lot like you prepare an onion. So I'm just trimming the end off like so, okay? You can see it has the layers in it, just like an onion. Sometimes though it'll be split into almost like cloves like garlic. And then I'm gonna cut it in half through the root. The root will help hold it together. And it makes peeling this outer layer off really easy. These up. And we do this just like we would do an onion. I always start by putting my knife flat against the board. This helps me keep my layers even as opposed to slanting, and then you end up with some really wonky dicing, okay? So I always start flat on the board and just raise it up a little bit for my first layer here, okay? Let the knife do the work. And then I go up a little bit more and I do another layer. And then from here, we are going to cut the opposite way. And I'm just going for like a small dice here. Okay, so you can kind of see these aren't very wide because I'm going for small pieces, okay? And then I'm just going to cut across for a dice. Always make sure you watch your fingers. Don't let anybody cutting themselves. question I get asked a lot as a chef is, how do you not cry when you cut onions? There's a couple of tricks there. First, make sure your knife is nice and sharp, okay? Because kind of what happens, what makes you cry, is those little, the cells of the onions burst open and release all their little chemicals, and they get in your eyes and make you cry. But if your knife is nice and sharp, they don't burst quite as much because they're sliced nice and neat. The other thing you can do is refrigerate them for a little bit. That will help kind of shrink up those cells a little bit. All right, we can see that these mushrooms are starting to give up their liquid a little bit here. You can see in the pan. I haven't added any oil or anything else to this other than what I put in it first. But you can see we're starting to get some juices there, okay? That's what we're going for. We want to get those excess juices out so that they don't make our final dish soggy and mushy and just not great. Hidden juices. Let's check on our pepper again. How's he looking? Oh, very nice. Side number 3. Takes a little time, but it's not difficult and it's worth it. All right, so next I've just got a head of garlic here. Just pulling off the loose parts. The easiest way that I have found to break open a head of garlic is to just put it down on your cutting board, put the heel of your hand on there and just push. And that breaks it apart pretty easily. For this dish, I don't need a ton of garlic. We're gonna add a lot of different flavors in here. These are kind of smallish cloves, so I'll do about 4. That should be good. I still have several left here, and we're gonna use those for another dish. To peel garlic, the fastest way I have found is to just take your knife on its side and whack it. Just like that. And then that skin just comes right off. All right, so there our garlic is peeled, and from here we're just gonna give it a chop. It doesn't have to be super fine, but we also just don't want big chunks of garlic in there. That's just not what we're going for. So I'm just gonna give this a bit of a chop, like so. Okay, that looks good. So it doesn't have to be super fine. We just don't want big chunks. So we're gonna scoot that to the side now. We're gonna have all of this stuff like ready to go when it's time. Our mushrooms are getting a little bit more juicy over here. Good, good. That's what we want them to do. The next thing we've got, I've just got a little bit of fresh spinach. This is about a half of one of those bags you can get from the grocery store. So probably about 4 cups. And all I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna give it a bit of a rough chop. I just don't want whole leaves in the dish. And for something like this, because you're cooking it, you don't need to spend the extra on baby spinach. It does cost a little bit more. Now I will go with that for something that's raw, because the adult spinach does tend to be a little bit hardier, just not as tender as the baby spinach. But when you're cooking it, this works just fine, and it's less expensive. Okay. So I'm just gonna put my chopped spinach back in the bowl here. There we go. All right. How we doing over here, Mr. Pepper? All right, side 3 is looking great. Last side here. Give those mushrooms a little stir. Fantastic. Okay, so now you can see they're starting to, that juice from the mushrooms is starting to evaporate, which is what we want. because then it's not going to be in our final dish. Okay. We'll just give that another minute while we get our sausage ready here. This is a pre-cooked chicken sausage. I like the tomato basil. Sometimes it's called caprese. The Italian is also very good. There's a lot of these pre-cooked chicken sausages out there these days in so many flavors, and they're just fantastic and they're so convenient. I like these because I just slice them up and throw them in my dish. They're really great pasta too. So these, I'm just gonna cut in slices. Don't want them super thick. You can see the little sun-dried tomatoes in them. Adds a lot of yummy flavor. Okay. So, our mushrooms have given up their juices. Those juices have evaporated. Now we're just gonna kind of scoot them aside so we got like a little hole in the middle. I'm gonna add just a tiny bit more olive oil. And then I'm gonna put in my shallots and garlic. Okay, and we're just gonna give those a little bit of a stir. We don't wanna cook these very long, just to kind of get them softened. You wanna keep an eye on them because the garlic can burn quickly and then it's really bitter, and we just don't want that in our dish. We're gonna start getting our pan ready. This is gonna go in the oven. I just have an 8-inch square baking dish here. And I'm just gonna spray it with some nonstick spray, just like that. Nothing too crazy. And then I'm just gonna put together the rest of the filling. So here I have a little bit of cream cheese and some plain Greek yogurt. You could use sour cream if you like. I like Greek yogurt. It has a lot of good protein in it for you, a lot of good calcium. It's a fantastic substitute for sour cream, and it still has that nice tangy flavor. And then the little bit of cream cheese will add some nice richness. So I'm gonna get all that in this bowl. And then here I've just got some mozzarella cheese, some shredded mozzarella cheese, and some grated Parmesan. And that's gonna go in there. And we're just gonna give that a little bit of a mix, just to kind of get it all combined. Nothing too crazy. Okay, now, all right, those are looking good. Now we're gonna add our spinach. We just wanna get it a little bit wilted. Spinach cooks down a lot when you cook it. It's just the nature of it. Might look like this is a lot of spinach, but you'll see here in just a minute, it's hardly any. But it adds some nice color and flavor to this dish. If you wanted to use something like kale, that would work great too. You can already see it's starting to cook down. Not as puffy as it was a minute ago. All right, that looks good. And then we're just gonna put our sausage in there just to kind of combine things. Just kind of let those flavors meld a little bit. This is all gonna go in the oven, so it's all gonna get cooked again. So we don't gotta worry about like thoroughly cooking the sausage, and it's already pre-cooked. We just kind of want flavors to meld a little. Okay. While we're doing that, all right, there's our pepper. Look at it. Totally just completely charred. That's what we're looking for, okay? I'm gonna just put him in a little bowl and set him aside for a little bit to cool, because right now I cannot touch that. It is very hot. Alrighty, by our little TV magic here, we've got our pepper here. I've got it cooled down. I've got all of the skin off. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can just let it sit at room temperature and cool on its own. Some people will put it in a bowl, wrap it in plastic. That helps the skin release, or put it in a Ziploc bag. That also helps the skin release. The quick method, I just put a colander in the bottom of my sink. You can see it catches all of that charred skin. And then I just run it under cold water, and that skin just comes right off. And then I have my nice charred pepper. It's all nice and juicy. And what's also really great about this is you can just pull it apart because it's all nice and cooked and soft. Just pulls right apart, just like that. Just pull the seeds. There's our pepper. So he's ready to go. So now we're just going to give this a bit of a chop. I just start by cutting it in strips, and then just turn it and just cut it into little pieces. All right, so then these are gonna go in with the rest of our stuff. Okay, so then I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a mix, just to get it combined. I'm gonna pour this into the pan. I've been preheating my oven to about 375. Then I'm just going to use a couple of spoons here to just dot this cheese mixture over the top. As it cooks, it'll melt down into all of that sausage and everything and make it nice and gooey and delicious. Last step before it goes in the oven, I have a little bit of panko breadcrumbs here. I like panko breadcrumbs. They are a little bit coarser, a little bit crunchier, but if you wanted to use just plain breadcrumbs, that's totally up to you. You can also get like Italian seasoned ones. Those would be good here. And then I just have a couple of tablespoons of melted butter. And I'm just gonna drizzle this over my breadcrumbs and just give it a little bit of a stir. Just got a little spoon here, use a fork or whatever you like. You'll see it kind of is starting to look like wet sand or something. What this is gonna do is this is gonna help these breadcrumbs brown up in the oven. All right, easy as that. And then I'm just gonna sprinkle them over the top, like so. Just try and get them even. These will add a nice crispy, crunchy topping. So we end up with a nice mix of textures here. All right, so now this is ready to go in our oven. It's not gonna take that long because everything's already cooked. So we just really need the cheese to melt and get bubbly and our breadcrumbs to get nice and brown. So this is gonna go in a 375-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. And while this is doing its thing, we're gonna start on our next recipe. Today, we are gonna do a nice, fresh, raw, shaved Brussels sprout salad. Most people don't think about using Brussels sprouts raw, but they're actually really delicious. They're nice and crunchy. And we're gonna put some yummy things in there to make a delicious salad. The first thing we're gonna start with are some hazelnuts. These are whole hazelnuts. Sometimes you'll see them called filberts in stores. And they still have some skins on them, so we're gonna get rid of those skins. I've just got a couple of clean dish towels here, and I'm just gonna lay out my hazelnuts in a single layer there. The other dish towel on top. And just give them a good rub. See, now you can see all those loose skins. And then from here, we're going to put our hazelnuts on our cutting board. We're going to give our hazelnuts just a little bit of a chop. I just don't want whole hazelnuts in the salad, that's all. Okay, so let's just have a bit of a rough chop on them. I'm just going to put them on this sheet pan here with a piece of parchment. And then these are just going to go in the oven for about 10 minutes. You'll start to smell them. Well, you don't have smell-o-vision, but when you do this at home, they'll start to smell them. That's when it's time to check. We're going to start building the rest of our salad. The main part, of course, is Brussels sprouts. This is just about a pound of Brussels sprouts, fresh from the grocery store. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this I'm going to show you. First thing, we got to cut this stem off because this is all really woody and we don't want to eat this, okay? So that's the first thing. I go through and I just trim off all of the stems. Alrighty. So once we get these trimmed up, like I said, there's a couple of different ways you can slice these. I'm going to show you a couple of them. So the first one is just going to be with just your knife, just doing it by hand, okay? And I find it a little bit easier to do if you cut them in half, because then they're not going to roll around on you, okay? So then you can just put them flat side down and they're not going anywhere, okay? And then you're just going to slice them really thinly, just like that. Almost like coleslaw. See, it's nice and thin. These little pieces that are kind of bunched together, we can just break them up. Get them in our bowl. Just got a nice big bowl here that I'm building my salad in. You can also use a grater with the slicing side. Now this one, I do leave them whole because it gives you more to hold on to as you are slicing. Safety first, okay? And it just depends on your box grater. Some of them are better equipped for this than others. Start from the other end here. So this one needs some sharpening. But it does do the trick. It does get them nice and thin. I'm just going to use my knife today. For me, that is what I am most comfortable with. But like I said, you have options. I just toss them in my bowl as I go. All right, a little bit of TV magic later. We've got all of our Brussels sprouts all shaved up in our nice big bowl here. You can just kind of take your hands and just zhuzh them around a little bit. Yes, that is the technical term, zhuzhing. Just to break up any of those little slices that are kind of stuck together. And also in our TV magic time, our hazelnuts got finished in the oven. You can start to smell them. They're nice and golden brown now. So we're gonna just set those aside to cool while we finish the rest of our salad. And then those will be like the last thing we add. The next part here, I've just got a small red onion. I like red or scallions for raw items, just because they have a little bit milder flavor. So I'm just peeling this guy. Show you a different way to slice these guys too. Now we're gonna cut the other end off, the root end. So we have these two big half moon chunks, okay? And then instead of slicing this way and ending up with great big slices and itty bitty tiny slices, we're gonna slice this way. You end up with more even pieces, okay? So I am just going straight down. Aren't these nice and thin since they're raw? We're not gonna cook them. Everyone's just like a giant mouthful of raw onion, okay? Then I can just turn it. Slice, 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 nice and thin. And they're nice and thin for our salad. Next, we've got a couple of nice pears here. These guys are a little small, so I'm gonna do two. But if you got some nice big ones, you know, you could just do one. So a trick I've found with pears and even apples, this works well too, is you're going to cut around the core. So we got our nice pear here. These are Anjou pears. This is what a lot of people picture when they picture pears, is the little green guys. But there are a lot of different types of pears out there. You'll see red pears as well, that they're kind of this size and shape. They're just kind of a maroon color. Bosque pears are another one that are pretty easy to find in grocery stores. They're the ones that almost look like antiques. That's how I always think about it. They look like antiques. They're kind of a goldish beige color, like they don't even look real. They look fake. But those are really good as well. And they just kind of have different properties. So these ones work really well raw. But if you cook these, they break down really easily, but the Bosque ones hold their shape really well. So those are what's commonly used for like poached pears or something like that, or a pear tart would be the Bosque pears. But for a raw preparation, these work just dandy, or even just eating. I love to just bite into a nice fresh juicy pear, so good. So to just cut around the core, all we're doing is we're cutting the sides off. Now turn it, cut another side off. Turn it, the other side off. And then that just leaves our core. And then we have these nice pieces that are going to be nice and easy to cut into chunks for our salad. Okay? So from here, I just want some bite-sized pieces. They don't need to be really big, but they don't need to be really tiny either. So I'm just going to dice these up a bit. That looks like a good size. You can see they're probably about 1/2 inch. Okay, so we've got our pears all nice and diced up. They're all in there. Go ahead and toss my blueberries in there. This is just about a cup, a little over a cup, I suppose. Those are just gonna go right in there. And now I'm gonna start on my vinaigrette. We're gonna make a nice maple Dijon vinaigrette, which is much easier than a lot of people think. Once you get the hang of making vinaigrettes, it is no big deal at all. All right, so here I've got my zester microplane, and I just have a single raw clove of garlic. Because this is staying raw, it is gonna stay potent. So that is why we're only doing one clove. And we are just gonna grate this for our vinaigrette. Just gonna rub it right against there. And then it's just kind of stuck on the back. I'm just gonna get that off there with our finger. So we'll get that nice garlicky flavor in there with very little effort. Next up, we have got, I'm gonna do a couple of tablespoons of Dijon mustard. I like the Dijon for this because it's not quite as sharp as a traditional yellow mustard, but I don't want it to be quite as spicy as a Stone Brown. So I like the Dijon for most vinaigrettes, actually. So I've just got a couple of tablespoons here. The nice thing about mustards too is they work as an emulsifier. What that means is then when we mix our vinaigrette together, it's gonna stay together instead of separating. All right, the next thing I've got here is some real maple syrup, not the pancake kind, just real maple syrup. You can get this at pretty much any grocery store. A lot of local places are doing their own as well. There is a park near my house, a great big, like a Boy Scout camp kind of park, that are making and selling their own maple syrup these days, and it's fantastic. Okay, and then I just have some apple cider vinegar here. I feel like the slight sweetness of this goes well with this salad. couple of tablespoons of that. And then I'm just gonna season this a little bit with some salt and pepper. Just gotta make sure you season everything. A bit of pepper. I like black pepper. I always gotta watch myself because I tend to go overboard with black pepper. Not everybody likes black pepper as much as me. Okay, so I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a mix, just to stir it together. Make sure I get that ground up garlic in there. And then I am just going to start drizzling in my olive oil. And I am just going to take a clean towel and make a little nest for my bowl. That's gonna help prevent it from scooting all over the place as I am whisking in my olive oil. So I'm going for about a half a cup. You just wanna make sure that you are whisking as you're drizzling so that everything is getting incorporated. So it's all come together, so I'm gonna give it a try here, see if we need to adjust anything. It's really yummy, it's really tangy. I'm gonna add just a little bit more maple syrup so that flavor comes out a little bit more. Just gonna eyeball it, probably about another tablespoon. Give that a nice whisk. But I'm happy with the amount of vinegar, oil, salt, that's all good. There we go. Don't want it too sweet, because it is a vinaigrette. We want that tang. But we don't want it to make us go making faces. Okay, so I got my big bowl here that has my Brussels sprouts, my onion, pear, blueberries. Now I am going to add in our toasted hazelnuts. They've had a chance to cool. Add some nice crunch to our salad. And then I have some fresh goat cheese here. This is about 4 ounces or so, 4 or 5 ounces. And I am just gonna crumble this into my salad. You just always want to make sure it's nice and cold when you do this, because if it is not cold, it won't crumble. It will just smush all over the place. All right, and now we are going to drizzle our dressing, our vinaigrette, right over the top. You always want to wait until just before serving to do this, otherwise it'll make your salad soggy. Nobody wants that. The rest you could do and hold ahead of time and just wait until right before you're serving it to add the vinaigrette. I know the holidays can get hectic, so planning ahead is going to be your best friend during the holidays. And I'm just using some tongs here to just kind of give it a little bit of a mix. In my nice big bowl. Smells so good. Here, instead of my big old mixing kitchen bowl, gotta have it look nice for the holidays. So it's nice to have something that's a little bit lighter. Sometimes you just need a vegetable. And this has got lots of them in them, lots of flavor. We've got tangy, crunchy, sweet. We've got a little bit of everything in there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and check on our stuffed mushroom casserole. It should be done by now. So let's take a look there. Ooh, yes. Beautiful. Smells amazing. Just gonna do a little scoop here on my plate so we can see all of the yummy parts of it. Look at that, we got the spinach, the mushrooms, the peppers, that yummy gooey cheese on top, crispy brown bread crumbs. It looks amazing. It smells so good. So there we got it. we've got a couple of fantastic new Thanksgiving sides for you to throw in the mix these holidays. Our lovely shaved Brussels sprout salad and our stuffed mushroom casserole. I hope you enjoyed these recipes today.